Sawadee Cup and welcome to another episode here for the Funky Pod, Mindful Media and Communication. And well, I announced slash threatened you last time and said, well, last time was serious, but about like a topic that's just fun to talk about, right? Sports. So we talked about sports, the NBA and whatnot, right? And I thought, hey, don't you worry. We're gonna get like real serious, real fast again. And well, today's the day. You see it from the title, from the thumbnail, whatever you look at before you press play. If you just press play without looking, welcome to your rude awakening. So we're talking about politics, and we're talking about, well, in this case, German politics, because I'm German, but also because I think what happens there is something we can see in many countries happening right now, okay? And so I'm just trying to analyze a little bit from a media / communications point of view, why is it happening? At the example of one specific party, as you can see from the title / thumbnail. And while analyzing that, maybe we can draw some conclusions to see why is it happening all across the world, actually, okay? So yeah, welcome to the podcast. Today we're trying to dive into the world of media communication / politics. I'll try to, as much as I can, because I'm German, but I'll try to add some humor to it somehow, because otherwise it's just hard to take from my point of view. So yeah, next 20-ish minutes we try this digital deep dive into, let's just name the devil. If I say it 3 times fast, the devil's going to appear or something like that. Let's talk about the AfD, all right? It's a political party, the right-wing party, and the right-wing, the right, dark brown, right party. In Germany, they call themselves Alternative for Germany. AfD means Alternative für Deutschland, so Alternative for Germany. Their colors are not brown, like on the logo it's blue, but they're the brown ones. Okay, so they've been stirring the pot in Germany and actually also European politics. And well, let's stir a bit more, right? So let's sit back and try to unravel what is the AfD actually doing and how are they doing it? Like, how is the AfD painting the digital tapestry? I'm really scared to say the name too many times, and then all of a sudden one of them stands behind me. So let's jump into it, okay? So imagine this political landscape. Like it's a bit, let's be honest, politics is pretty bland. It's pretty predictable. That's also why no one wants to be in it, right? Then I think around 2013 came around, and with it came the AfD, okay? Initially, the initial focus is on the euro and the economic woes of the eurozone. Okay, so that's what was the initial idea, the initial agenda that they put out. But very soon, they took a sharp right turn, catching the winds of anti-immigration, Euroscepticism, and so on. It's like watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly. I wanted to say, but not into a butterfly, because a butterfly is beautiful. So it's more into something entirely unexpected, far more complex, and far more right, okay? And this transformation isn't just in the policies, okay? It's in the identity as well. And it's in the communication. That's why we talk about it on this podcast. So the AfD starts to harness the beast that is social media, right? So we talk about it many a times. And while everybody or lots of people in Germany are okay, let's get demonetized, while they're shitting on the AfD, they're using the media very, very well, especially social media. Okay, so it's almost like search and precision, when it then comes to how they use social media. They have this showman-like flair when it comes to using social media. Now they begin to craft messages that resonate with a growing base. They're not just posting updates, hey, we're doing this, we're doing that here and there. They're constructing very carefully a narrative. They're creating a brand that's as compelling as it is controversial. And that's why it resonates so well with so many people. So let's zoom in a little bit more on the social media strategy, okay? Because, like I said, they're using it very, very, very well. And you cannot just dismiss it. So yeah, their posts are a blend of very emotive content, of course, but also sharp political commentary. And it's quite easy when you're on the opposition, obviously, right? You can criticize everything. So they tap into like the fears and hopes of the audience very, very well. And they try, that's what like, opposing parties and like propagandist parties do a lot. They wrap complex political issues in like very easily digestible, shareable content. It's like this potent mix of populism and very digital savvy, like what they're doing, right? So they turn the AfD into like an actual, I want to say like on social media, they're a juggernaut. Like when it comes to interactions and stuff, they're doing very, 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 very well. But the thing is, so they're not just throwing content into the ether and then just hope for the best. They're very strategic with it, actually. Yeah, so they understand the audience. And we know that that's like the key to success, right? So they tailor their message to resonate with the followers' like deepest concerns. Okay, they talk about protecting German culture, for example. All right, they talk about sovereignty. They talk about the threat of immigration, like all designed to hit home, to stick in the mind, and to like align with the fears of their audience. And so that is smart. Know your audience. Yeah? Go to phrase at university. Know your audience. Now, if you consider the concept of echo chambers and filter bubbles when it comes to that, right? We know those digital phenomena. We talked about them before. They're like fertilizers, in this case, for the AfD's messages. In those online spaces that their followers, that every one of us is living, their narratives are, of course, reinforced. They're amplified. And if it's like within this whole filter bubble, it's unchallenged. It's like this feedback loop that turns their message into like a mantra, like repeated, shared, and internalized by the followers. Okay. And again, they're not just saying get rid of all the foreigners. No, they're saying like, hey, we have to have like German, not even ideas, like German priorities, like make America great again, like right. But they say it like in a smart way, not like it sounds like a Nazi slogan. So they did make it sound like smarter, of course. So let's dive even more into it, right? So you see, I'm wearing my cap. Let's make it an academic cap, okay? Because we're looking into communication theories as well, of course. And we talked a lot about those theories before, like agenda setting, for example. Now, as you know, agenda setting says the media doesn't tell you what to think, but it's very, very, very good at telling you what to think about. Yeah, so the AfD has turned their theory into practice, like very skillfully setting the public agenda, like focusing attention on their chosen issues. Right? So if there is something that suits their agenda, like, hey, look over there, this is happening right now, while then ignoring other things, for example. Okay. So they're doing this very, very well, of course, like framing things the way they want their audience to perceive reality. Okay. Speaking of framing, we talked about this before as well, the framing theory, right? So they don't just present the issue, they frame the issue. So they wrap their messages in like narratives of like national identity, cultural preservation, and obviously, which is very important, deep skepticism of the mainstream media. And by the way, everything that I explain right now, I'm not saying everything is wrong. Like I'm also very skeptical of mainstream media. That's why I'm here on YouTube or on Spotify, wherever you listen, right? But like, I mean, they don't just say we hate this, but they really finding the topics that their audience aligns with or their audience is interested in, and then they frame it in a way that resonates with the audience. Like very, 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 very smart. So it's not just about the news themselves, it's about the story around the news, okay? So the frame around the news that shapes how we perceive and understand it. So while the news is still there, the frame that you put around the news shapes the way we understand the news presented inside the frame, if that makes sense, okay? And over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I talked a lot about one of my favorite theories, favorite in terms of being important and not being talked about enough. So that's why I talk about it every single week now, the spiral of silent theory. Okay, in the digital realm, especially in those spaces dominated by a certain place, in this case, the AfD, the AfD's rhetoric. like alternative viewpoints, they can become marginalized. Actually, they can become very, very silent. It's as if like a single voice like drowns out the chorus, right? Leaving like a monologue where there should be a dialogue. And we talked about this before here in the podcast, right? So you hear more and more people talk about like topic A and how important it is, and that we should do A, and you think no, we should do B. But because so many people say no, we should do A, you don't even argue with them, and you get drowned on. You're like, okay, I guess, and you just keep your opinion to yourself. And speaking of theories we discussed in this podcast, we also talked about the cultivation theory before. And this is also at play when it comes to how the AfD is utilizing communication channels, like because they're very consistent with their messaging. So if you're consistent with your messaging, the AfD's narrative starts to like color the perception of the audience. You start seeing the world through their lens. In the AfD's case, like the narrative becomes the lens through which their followers view like political and social issues, right? So even if you're not fully agreeing with it, you're like, yeah, let's go. You're like, oh, you hear it again, and you hear it again, and you hear it again. You're like, oh, I can see their point, right? Okay, yeah, maybe they got a point, actually. Oh, yeah, I don't trust mainstream media, actually. Actually, why would I trust them? Oh, yeah, no, they'd want me to do. Yeah, actually, the AfD has a good point. And that's then how you start seeing things through their lens, okay? And having that, I'm giving them lots of compliments right now. I'm not saying the AfD is a great party. I'm just giving them lots of compliments in regards to how they run their communication strategies, okay? But we're also going to hit the brakes a little bit in between, don't you worry. It's because their strategy, while undeniably effective, is obviously not without the dark side, right? Dark side, what do I mean by that? I mean, like, there's still lots of misinformation in there. They're using lots of polarizing rhetoric. And let's be honest, they're even using hate speech as part of the digital landscape that they're painting. Okay, and that's a reminder that with great power, and in this case the power of digital communication, comes great responsibility. And sometimes that responsibility is just not shouldered very well. Effectively, but from an ethical point of view, maybe not very well. And if you just go on a global scale, like the AfD, and why I talk about this right now, the AfD is not an outlier. Right-wing parties all around the world are looking at the playbook because, German right-wing parties just historically have been doing very well and learn their strategies. It's a trend that's reshaping political communication, like blurring the lines between political campaigning and digital marketing, basically. By the way, I'm not shifting blame only to like people voting for them. And obviously, I mean, the reason why right-wing parties are doing well is just because other parties are effing up so much. That's why then lots of potential voters are like, I don't want to vote for you, I'm going to vote for them. Obviously, right? So just to make that clear, so I'm just analyzing media communication theories that apply to the right-wing party, in this case the AfD as an example, not saying other parties are not at fault and so on, just to make that clear. Okay. Now when we look at the future, right? How will the AfD navigate the shifting sands of the digital landscape is a question. Like, there's social media platforms, they're evolving, public sentiment is like in flux all the time. Obviously, their strategy will need to be like very dynamic, like because the environment they navigate in will be very dynamic. Will they be like those digital chameleons, maybe, like that can adjust to everything? Or will they find themselves outpaced by the very medium they mastered? I'm going to just add some guesses here. As long as you're in the opposition, it's easy to be against anything, right? That's why it's also easy for them to frame the narratives and to adjust to anything. Should social media platforms enforce more censorship, what I'm not suggesting, but should they do that, That's just perfect for the AfD because then they can say, hey, mainstream media is censoring us, for example. So I don't see a future where the AfD is not doing well on social media. That's what I'm saying, for the foreseeable future. Okay, so even if the environment changes a little, I think the AfD is strategic enough, well versed enough in social media and digital marketing to actually adjust. I think the biggest problem of the AfD is obviously the politicians because they're just not that smart. Some of them are very smart, obviously, but their messaging might not always be the smartest or not in line with what they're trying to do in their overall strategic approach, I think. So now, trying to wrap this quick dive into political communication when it comes to the AfD up, right? We can see that digital communication is very powerful when it comes to shaping political landscapes. The story of the AfD, it's more than just this political saga. It's like a lesson in the power of narrative, storytelling, the impact of digital platforms, and the responsibilities that come with wielding this influence. And I think that's a huge problem when you then are so successful and you're so good at utilizing those platforms, but then you're just not looking into the responsibilities that come with that. And you don't care about those. You say ethics, what? Here's more misinformation, right? So that's a big, big, big problem. I want to end on something positive, like, do I see a world in which the AfD could utilize their tech/social media savviness for good? But I don't. I just don't. So you hopefully you that are like all tech savvy, social media savvy, and so on. Hopefully you will use your savviness for good, and not to start an even more right wing party. Maybe you use it to actually counter that, and that's how I end on a positive note. The counter. We've actually now seen the counter movements over the past 2 days, past weekend, or I think before the weekend even. Demonstrations in Germany. I try to mix up German and English. Demonstrations in Germany against right-wing politics, against Nazis and so on. I think Hamburg saw like 150,000 people, and Munich around 200,000. I saw in the news they had to shut down those protests because just too many people wanted to join in to protest, to protest against Nazis, which is just nice to see. And there's a slogan, never again. And in this case, I'm very happy that my fellow Germans actually stood up for that and went out onto the streets and said, nope, never again. Yeah, but even it's like in my university class, like I'm about to finish and I have another idea that I want to get out. But even seeing this, right, seeing like, just 2 demonstrations, 350,000 people going out there, like huge masses protesting against right. It's like, oh my God, so many people are out there doing the right thing, which is awesome. But the AfD is still so successful. And it doesn't all come down to the digital strategies, but the digital strategies are certainly a huge part of it. And that's why it's important to understand digital communication, communication and media theories, to understand what are they doing, how are they doing it, why is it working. You can't just go around blame people like, hey, if you follow the AfD, you're stupid, because that just alienates those people, right? It needs to be like, hey, why do so many people follow them? What are they doing well? How are they doing it? Oh, I get it now. That's why. So you follow the AfD. You're not necessarily a Nazi, right? That's the saying, like, not everybody who follows the AfD is a Nazi, but every Nazi follows the AfD. So just because someone follows the AfD or thinks about voting for the AfD doesn't make them a Nazi. It just makes them someone who are disgruntled by current politics and who somehow got caught up in the very well strategic, structured communication strategy by the AfD. And that's why it's important to understand how they're doing it, why they're doing it, how they're successful. Because if we are aware of it, we might be able to understand those people better, maybe even offer some counterpoints, and maybe even show people the way out away from the AfD. All right, now I really wrap it up because otherwise it really feels like a university lecture. So let me know what you think about like the current right-wing trend, how right-wing parties are owning the communications field, so to speak. Why don't traditional parties utilize digital communication in a more strategic? I mean, they think they have a strategy, but let's be honest, they have a very traditional strategy that they're bringing to the digital realm, right? Their strategy is not digital first, most of the time, which is ridiculous. So why don't they do it? If you're in a political party and you want to learn how to use a digital first approach to your communication, shout out. It's funkitpod@gmail.com, @funkitpod on social media. Like, share, subscribe to this podcast. It would be fantastic if you also leave a review. That would really make my day. Until then, stay safe, take care, go vote if there are elections wherever you are. Until next time, talk soon. Sawadee ka.